Hello, my name is Mark Black, and this video will provide an overview of the new installer for IBM Spectrum LSF Suite 10.2. This is part of a series of videos looking at the LSF Suite 10.2. And if you're interested in just getting installed quickly, jump to video number 4. That'll give you the information that you need. Okay. So let's start off by looking at what's different in LSF Suite 10.2. And specifically, we're going to look at the installation process. So just a little bit of history. So prior to IBM Spectrum LSF Suite 10.2, you would have to go and download the individual components separately. So LSF, for example, the application console, process manager, license scheduler, MPI, and all the other bits. It was a bit of a pain. And then you'd have to go and install those separately. So now with IBM Spectrum LSF Suite 10.2, you have a single package that you can download. You also have the automation necessary to install not only one machine, but the entire cluster. So the whole installation experience is a lot more easier. If you are an existing LSF user, well, you can also get the individual components with some caveats. Let's look at the installation flow now. So you of course have to download the packages, and of course there are some prerequisites that you need to meet. You then run the package that you've downloaded, and it will prompt you with a license, and you'll accept that. The next thing that you'll do is decide what is the role or roles for each of the machines within the cluster. You may then run some pre-installation tests. That'll test configuration and the machines themselves and connectivity and give you some results. Then you'll install the cluster and then finally log in to the GUI and run some tests. Okay, so let's look at these steps in a little bit more detail. So there are of course different packages to download depending on which edition that you are going to use, and also based on which architecture, power, or x86 that you're going to install on. If you have, say, a mixed cluster, for example, you would want to download both the power and x86 packages and install both onto the same deployment node. So once you've got the packages downloaded, you also want to now look at the prerequisites and make sure that you've met those on all of your machines. You'll need to decide what type of install do you want to have. Do you want to install on the local disk, or do you want to use a shared directory for your installation? You'll have to mount your NFS or Spectrum Scale directory for HA. You may want to have an external database that you will have to prepare, and you'll need your OS repository set up so we can pull in some prerequisites, and you'll also need passwordless SSH set up. Okay, so you've met the prerequisites, and the next thing to do is go and download your packages. So perhaps you've downloaded these two packages here. This is the Enterprise Edition of LSF Suite. This is a PowerPC version, and here's an x86 version. You'll run these, and of course accept the license, and it'll set up some stuff for you. It'll set up the machine where you've run these to be a web server. It will have created a repository for the LSF Suite RPMs, and it will have extracted the playbooks for Ansible. Okay, let's switch over and do a live demo. Okay, so this is the machine that I'm going to use to run the deployment, and I've already downloaded the files. So I have my PowerPC version and my x86 version, and I'm going to use the machine as the deployment node, but I'm going to install on a different machine. So let me just SSH into that and just check the prerequisites. First of all, we want to see, do I have passwordless SSH set up? And sure enough, okay, that works. Let's also check out to see if we have the OS repository set up. Just do the quick search, and sure enough, I'm able to do a yum search, so my repository is ready. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to run my um, installer file. So of course I'm going to accept my license. Yes. And that's going to prepare this machine to be the deployer node. And it gives me some instructions on what to do next. Okay, so let's set this machine to be a deployer node for x86. We also want it to be able to deploy power boxes as well. So let's run the other installer. Again, we accept the license. And it tells me, hey, this is an x86 box, so it's only going to set this up to be like a repository for power. So let's go take a look and see what this actually did. If we go to var HTML, suite packages. So it's created this directory for us, and in here we have two directories, one for power and one for x86. If we go in here, we can see what's there. And here you go. Here's all of the LSF suite packages, and you can see we have a repo directory here as well. So this is already set up to be a Yum repository. The other thing that it's done is deposit some files here in opt, IBM, LSF installer. So you have the Ansible packages that we've provided. There's a database schema for setting up your external database, the entitlement files, and of course the playbooks. We're interested in the playbook, so let's go there. Okay, here's our playbooks. Next, we want to decide what are the roles of each machine within the cluster. You'll need to decide how many LSF masters do we want to have. We would recommend at least a minimum of 2. Where is the database going to run? Is it going to run within the cluster or perhaps some external host? How many machines are going to be GUI hosts? Do we want to use the LSF master machines as GUI hosts as well? Do we want to enable system monitoring or not? Do we have our own system monitoring tools already deployed and we're used to those? If so, maybe we want to turn off the system monitoring. And where are we going to get our shared directory from for HA? We need to translate those decisions into an inventory file for the installer to use. So the roles of the machines are controlled by the LSF inventory file, and you've seen before there are multiple roles, so the LSF masters, LSF servers, LSF clients, GUI hosts, and DB host. A machine can of course belong to multiple roles, so like the LSF master, GUI host, and DB host, they can all coexist with each other. One thing to note though, the LSF master role is a superset of the LSF server role, which is then a superset of the LSF client roles. So really a machine only needs to be in one of those roles. The other file that you need to edit is the LSF config YAML file. Right, so you've already edited the LSF inventory file and you've specified the names of each of the machines within those roles. So now in the LSF config YAML file, this one is for defining the name of the cluster, and I would recommend setting this once and don't change it afterwards. You'll also want to decide whether you want to use our built-in monitoring or not. You can optionally provide the shared directory for HA. You can do that initially or at some point in the future. And you can optionally define an external database. Okay, let's do a live demo of that. Alright, let's look at our inventory and configuration file. This is our inventory file. So in here we define the roles of each of the machines. So here I am not going to use the machine. This is my deployer. I want my LSF master to be actually somewhere else. Let me change that. I don't have any LSF servers, You'll notice that we can actually specify like a range. That's convenient for you if you've got a large cluster. And of course, my GUI host has to be the same. I don't have a shared directory, so my GUI host and LSF masters have to be the same hosts, or same host, sorry. And I'll put my database on 5 as well. Okay, so that is my LSF inventory file, and I've set this up for a single machine. Let's look at the configuration file now. So here we define the cluster name. I'm going to leave that. We'll also define whether we want our built-in monitoring to be enabled. If you have your own monitoring tool, you might want to turn this off. We've also defined shared directory. I don't have one right now, and I don't need to specify a JDBC string because, well, I'm going to use a database that I'm going to deploy. So in that DB host role, I have defined it, so I don't need to specify a JDBC string. We'll generate that automatically. Okay, that's my LSF config YAML file. Okay, so we've got our LSF inventory file and our LSF config YAML file set up. Now we want to run some pre-installation tests. So we've got 2 pre-installation tests available. The first one will check the configuration, and you run that by running this command here. Ansible playbook -im LSF inventory, and then the LSF config test YAML file. It'll do some tests on the configuration, make sure that there's no failures. You shouldn't have any. If there are, correct those failures or issues, and then make sure this test passed. The other test that's available is a pre-deployment test. This one's a little bit more thorough in its testing. It's going to go to each machine and test out different things. So look at the available memory, the available disk space. It's going to check that it can resolve the deployment hosts and the LSF master hosts. This one will take a little bit of time to run, but it's probably worthwhile running at least once within your cluster. And another thing, if you are using VMs, for example, this is a handy test to make sure that those VMs have woken up. And okay, let's switch over to my live environment and run those tests. Let's run our pre-deployment test now. Should I give it the inventory file? And the test we want to run is this one here. Okay, so that goes to the machine, looks at the configuration files, and makes sure that there's nothing, unusual or not supported in there. And as we expect, it did 12 tests, and you can see they all succeeded. Okay, the other one we want to run is a pre-deployment test. So let's run that now. So again, it's Ansible playbook -i LSF inventory, and then LSF pre-deploy test.yaml. And we expect this one to succeed as well. So you can see it's going off and testing the machines to make sure that they have enough memory, they have enough disk space, and it will also try and ping the other host to make sure that it can resolve them and that they are reachable. But I've only got one machine, so it succeeds. Okay, so that test is complete. Okay, so we've run our pre-deployment tests and everything looks okay. Now we're ready to actually install the cluster. But I'm going to stop the video here because we'll deal with the actual installation in the next video. I'm going to look at a number of different cases, so like a simple install with a single host, a basic install with a couple of LSF masters and a GUI host, and then a larger cluster with 2 LSF masters and 3 GUI hosts, and then a large install with an external database. So in conclusion, The LSF Suite 10.2 new installer simplifies the installation of not just one machine but the entire cluster. And we can control what the roles are of each of those machines are by assigning them to different roles. In the next video, we'll actually do the installation and we'll run through different installation scenarios. And if you want more information, here's a URL here that you can follow. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that.